Good. Okay. Good evening. Thank you all for coming to Bible study tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. It's new. I did something wrong. Somewhere I did something wrong. Let me see if I do that. I guess I'm in. I guess. I don't know. Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you all. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for coming. Like us on YouTube at Pastor Jeffrey Goodine. Subscribe and hit the bell to be notified. Like us on Facebook. Follow us at Church on Wheels, Let the Good News Roll. Facebook Live, Jeffrey Goodine. Twitter at Goodine Jeffrey. Instagram, Goodine Jeffrey. And Clubhouse, Church on Wheels Ministry. We are continuing our putting Jesus in his place, the case for the deity of Christ. We are continuing that now, and tonight is chapter 14. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Clubhouse. If you send me an email at pastorjeffreygoodine@gmail.com. That's pastorjeffreygoodine@gmail.com. And I will add you to the list, and you will get a handout so that you could follow along with us in Bible study. Tonight, chapter 14, Jesus is it from A to Z. Jesus is it from A to Z. Now, this is the last chapter on the names of Jesus. And so in the handout, I got some key words and that they're using, but the note I put is the Old Testament portrays Yahweh or the Lord as the bridegroom and husband. Well, the New Testament portrays the Lord as the bridegroom, the Savior, the first and the last. Now, when we say the bridegroom or the husband, it is that the church is the bride, and he's the bridegroom, and he's returning. And there's some parables in there of the 10 virgins waiting on the bridegroom to come, and then when he comes, 5 were ready and 5 weren't. So that was kind of an analogy or so of that when Jesus returned for his church, some people are going to be ready and some people are not going to be ready. I guess now the thing is to get ready because he's coming. So the name that he used, bridegroom, we know that's sort of a marriage term. Well, Jesus married to the church, so in the New Testament, he's returning for his bride, which is the church. And there's scriptures on, especially Paul, talking that he has to present the church, spotless and for his return. So that's the analogy of in the Old Testament and the New Testament. They both speak of Jesus as the bridegroom, but in the Old Testament, the same connotation that they use for God, they use in the New Testament for Jesus. Same wording. So, in essence, we are giving Jesus his ultimate deity and his ultimate level, the supreme deity. So, here and on page 171, you see Isaiah chapter 54, verse 5 says, "For your Maker is your husband, the Lord of hosts is his name. The Holy One of Israel is your Redeemer, the God of the whole earth, he is called." And then that is Isaiah 54 and 5. And then Isaiah 62 and 5 says, "As the bridegroom rejoices over the bride, so shall your God rejoice over you." And this is Isaiah talking to Israel, talking to the people that that God is the bridegroom and they are the bride, and he rejoices over us. So again, they're making the analogy and they're making the connection or the marriage between the people and God. Well, the same thing is happening in the New Testament, where you're having the marriage between the church, or Christ followers, and Christ. The church is the bride, and Christ is the bridegroom, and he's going to return for his bride, which is the church. So here they're making the analogy, and they're using the foundation of it from a marriage perspective. So, if we can, let's turn to Hosea chapter 2. If we turn to Hosea, nope, yeah, yes. Hosea chapter 2. And if you start at verse 1, and in the NIV says, "Say to your brothers, my people, and your sisters, my loved one, rebuke your mother, rebuke her, for she is not my wife, and I am not her husband. Let her remove the adulterous look from her face and the unfaithfulness from between her breasts. Otherwise, I will strip her naked and make her as bare as on the day she was born. I will make her like a desert, turn her into a parched land, and slay her with thirst." Now, he's speaking about, well, if to get the connotation of Hosea, if we look at Hosea, let's go back to Hosea chapter 1. Let's go back to the first chapter of Hosea. Let's go back to the first chapter of Hosea. And this is, again, how they're using Hosea as the prophet to represent the people and the relationship that they have with God. Now, in Hosea, and then you see what he's saying about chapter, and when you get to chapter 2. In Hosea 1, the word of the Lord that came to Hosea, son of Beri, during the reign of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, and during the reign of Jeroboam, son of Joash, king of Israel. Now this is a prophet, Hosea. Said, when the Lord began to speak through Hosea, the Lord said to him, "Go, marry a promiscuous woman and have children with her, for like an adulterous wife, this land is guilty of unfaithfulness to the Lord. So he married Gomer, daughter of Diblaim, and she conceived and bore him a son. Now, when you study the prophet Hosea, the prophet Hosea was told by God to go marry a prostitute and have children. So this was the analogy of Israel prostituting themselves out to other gods. And God is married to her per se, but she's a prostitute. Well, what he's saying is that I am your God, I am the Father over you, and then you are going after other gods. You're being promiscuous. You're going after other gods. You're worshiping other gods. So this was the analogy. And what he's telling Hosea is to go marry a prostitute. Now, the King James Version says that, it says, beginning of the word, the Lord bows in, the Lord said to Hosea, go, take unto thee a wife of whoredoms and children of whoredom, for the land has committed great whoredom, departing from the Lord. So, what Hosea, the prophet Hosea, what his job or prophecy, or however you want to call it, was to show the analogy of a marriage, of an unfaithful marriage, that the people of God were unfaithful to him. So he's showing Isaiah, through Isaiah, that you are the prophet. People are looking up to you, per se, like we'll look at it. And you are marrying a prostitute and having children. And if you read when you read Hosea, you will see that that at one point she stopped. And then she did it again, and she left, and then God told Hosea to go get her and bring her back. Now let's think about this for a minute. At that point, God is the bridegroom or the husband, and the land or the people are prostitutes. And the people are going after other gods. And when they go, he goes to get them. So in today, Jesus is coming back for his bride. We are going after other gods. We're putting other things before him. So in that analogy, Jesus being the husband or the bridegroom, and he's per se married to the church, he's coming back for the church. He's coming back for a church of whoredom that have produced children of whoredom. And he's still coming back for us. So when you see the book of Hosea, Hosea is the analogy of the bride, God and his chosen people. God and his chosen people. The chosen people. These are his people. And if we're the chosen people, and we're going after other gods, we're putting things before him, we're producing children and other gods. So Hosea is the analogy. And Hosea, the book and the prophet Hosea will show, when you read them, it's not a long chapter, it's not a long book. But when you read it, you will see, you'll understand chapter 2. When he's telling her in chapter 2, he said, look, this is what I'm going to do. Tell him that I'm through. That there's no longer, I'm just going to clear it off. I'm just going to clear it off. Now, understandably, in Hosea, if the bridegroom notices that the bride is in sense a prostitute going after other gods, then that's the church. That's the people. And he said that he will, if they do not change. If they do not change, then he'll make them as the wilderness, slain with thirst. So the analogy here is that God is the bridegroom or the husband, and the wife or the people. So Gomer in this is representing the people in an analogy. So he's telling the prophet to go marry a prostitute and bear children. Well, God married to his chosen people, and look what they did. Went off after other gods, while they still called him the true God. Because when things get tough, they cried to him, and he heard their cry. So every time things get tough with us, he hears our cry. But in the meantime, we're prostituting ourselves out to other gods. So when you read the book of Hosea, Hosea is the one prophet that God told to go marry a prostitute in reference to the people. And that's the reference of the Old Testament reference as the bridegroom and the husband. Well, in the New Testament, we say that Christ is returning. He is the bridegroom coming for his bride. Paul says, I have to present you spotless, so that when he comes, there won't be any blemishes. So that means that you get straightened up, whatever it is you want to call it. But again, the representation of a marriage foundation, the bride and the bridegroom. The bride is the church. The bridegroom is Christ. Now, let's put it in Hosea's thing. Christ, the bridegroom, marriage, church, which is a prostitute. Now you think about all of the things that are happening in the churches today. Think about all of the things that we see. Think about all of the things that are happening, and they're quick to say, I thought they were, I thought they were church folk. Typical thing. I thought they went to church. Just because you go to church, I don't mean, it's because you go to church and sit on the front row. Doesn't mean anything. Sitting in the back row don't mean anything. Sitting in the middle don't mean anything. Singing in the choir don't mean anything. you have to have the personal relationship. So what we see today is the same concept with Hosea. The bride, the church, the prostitute. The bridegroom is Christ. And unless the church straighten up, when he when he comes back, unless they are ready, unless they are prepared, like the 5 virgins that was prepared for the bridegroom, and the 5 that weren't missed out. The bridegroom came and went because you weren't ready. Well, let's fast forward to today. If Christ comes today, are we ready?
A lot of churches aren't.
Yes.
And they need to read that because Christ the bridegroom is not coming back for his groom.
Right.
That separates everything.
Yeah. He's coming back for the bride. He ain't coming back for the groom.
Correct.
I don't know where that, you know.
Understand the analogy.
Yeah. So, so you see the concept and the analogy of it is that Jesus Christ has the same analogy, same connotation as the Old Testament. So if the Old Testament is talking about the one true God in the sense of the bridegroom and the bride, well, the New Testament speaks of the same sense. The bride and the bridegroom. Same sense. So again, this is his this is his. Now in Matthew 25, you know, I've turned there, we see the story, the parable of the virgins waiting on the bridegroom. Now, this is the thing I want to talk with this way. They were expecting the bridegroom to come. I mean, you know, let's take a look at this thing. They were expecting him to come. And they still weren't ready. I mean, you know, when we read the parable, you got to really look at it. Those 10 were expecting the bridegroom to come. They were waiting. I mean, this is their, you know, life or whatever they're getting ready for it. And because, okay, I think what it is, because it didn't come right away, then some of them went, well, you know, he ain't come today, he ain't here yet, so, you know, I'm gonna, you know, I'll give it to tomorrow. Well, when you read the parable, you'll see that the bridegroom came unannounced.
Isn't that what a lot of us say when we hear that Jesus is coming back?
Yeah.
For years we've heard that.
We've heard him come. Jesus is coming. Jesus is coming. Jesus is coming. Well, he ain't here yet. Well, he's coming. Well, he ain't showed up today yet. So I'll wait till tomorrow. Or I'll do whatever.
But it's on his time frame.
Yeah, his time frame is definitely not our time frame. So,
Make sure you got your lamp on.
right, make sure that all is ready. Now, and what I would say is that when you read the parable, the bride, the bride, they were, all 10 of them were expecting him. They knew he was coming. They knew he was coming. That's what I'm saying. We know he's coming. Look at, you can ask, you know, anybody out there that ain't going to church, they'll tell you Jesus is coming. They'll tell you Jesus is coming. Now they might not say that, you know, the bridegroom is coming for his bride and the bride is the church. You know, they say he's coming. Now, well, if they say he's coming, and they know he's coming, are they ready? Are you ready? Now, that's what I say about the thing in the 10 virgins. All 10 of them knew the bridegroom was coming. He's coming this way. They knew it. But he didn't come right away. And so some of them got tired of waiting. They weren't prepared. How I want to say this. They started out prepared. But then, as time went on, they didn't bring enough oil. They didn't restock the oil like some of them did. Because he was looking for the light. And when Christ is coming, he's looking for the light. He's looking for that light. And if you ain't got no oil in your lamp, you ain't got no light. So he's going to pass on by. He's going to get the one with the light. And then you'll be left behind. Again, the bridegroom, the bride. Guess what? The bridegroom is coming. Yes. The bridegroom is coming. Now, and even though the church is a whoredom, he's still coming back for his bride. Because, like I said in the book of Hosea, God told Hosea, go get her. Go get her. So, if Christ is coming back for the church, and the church has prostituted itself out to other gods and other things and put things before him, an unfaithful relationship, and he's still coming. Now tell me that ain't a loving Savior. That he's still coming. Not to see not one left behind. But we're not getting ready. Again, the bridegroom and the bride. That's the connection. And you'll see that in the Old Testament, when Isaiah speaks of the bride, the bridegroom, well, in the New Testament, it speaks of the bride, which is the church, and the bridegroom, which is Christ. And then you see what we have done. There's still a chance. Get some oil for your lamp. Get some oil for your lamp. Because he's coming unannounced. And then, you know, and if you read the story of the verse, when they saw the bridegroom come, everybody was up and out, everybody running around, they running around, oh gosh, he's here, I hear him, there he is, give me some oil, give me some oil. I said, no, you weren't prepared. You weren't prepared. So he left him. Yeah.
Well, the oil kind of represent them, you know, your soul shining a light that Christ can find you, you know.
Right.
You know, because he said in the New Testament, you know, if you weren't professing him as your Lord and Savior, you know, I never knew you.
Right.
In other words, I couldn't see.
Right. And that little, and the song the little kids sing, this little light of mine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let it shine. Okay, this little light of mine. Well, that's how the bridegrooms found them. That's how the bridegroom found them. By the light. And those whose lights went out. Now look, like I said before, all of them were ready at the beginning. Now, some of them start out good, but then eventually over time, they fade away.
Weary and well.
Yeah. Don't get weary in well doing now, but they fade away. That's what happened. The 5 of them, he didn't come right away. But they knew he was coming. See, that's the thing about the parable. They knew he was coming, all 10 of them. And all 10 of them were prepared. If he had come when they thought he was coming, they were prepared. But when he didn't come when they thought he was coming, 5 of them wavered off. And then when it happened, then there was all the confusion, and they were saying to the other guy, give me some of your oil, give me some of your oil. And they said, no. So now, look, when Christ comes now, and and you're not ready, and you say, well, can I have some of your light? Can I have some of your light? I can't give you none of my light. My light is as dim as you think it is. I'm trying to keep it on so he can see me. But I can't give you none of my light. I ain't got no light to give. You need to do that on your own. But the thing is that when they say the bride should be ready, the bridegroom is coming, and you just don't know when. So
That also kind of segues into, Christ's return is, he said you won't know the day or the hour.
right.
So, be prepared, otherwise everybody be, wait. You think
Yeah.
the world's crazy now, right? Everybody be waiting till the 11th hour. All right, he'll be here in an hour, time to straighten up.
Yeah, time to straighten up. Yeah, let's try to get it all right. All right, y'all, let's go to 2 Corinthians. Let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 11. 2 Corinthians chapter 11.
What verse?
Let's do 1 and 2. Second Corinthians chapter 11, verses 1 and 2. I'll put 2 here, but let's do 1. 1 also. You want to read that?
Sure. I hope you will put up with me in a little foolishness. Yes, please put up with me. I am jealous for you with a godly jealousy. I promise you one husband to Christ, so that I might present you as a pure virgin to him.
Okay. Now, this is Paul's letter, and this is the second letter to the church at Corinth. That he's telling them, I'm getting you ready. I promised you one husband.
Pastor?
Yeah.
Can we back up just a tad?
Uh-huh.
What is the foolishness that he's referring to?
What Paul is talking about in him is his,
Was that they'll do magic tricks or something?
no, that was what Paul is talking about to this church at Corinth is his foolishness and what he's talking about. His I won't say this. His imperfection. Because a lot of them question Paul. Okay? A lot of them question Paul.
Because of his background?
Right, because of his background. Well, Paul really really didn't back away from his background. He accepted it. So when he's talking to these people at the church at Corinth, is that they are now, some of them now are questioning his foolishness. And he's telling them, look, put up with it. You can put up with me because I'm presenting you. I want you to be, because remember now, Paul said that to die is the gain. That if, I'm torn. That if I die and go to heaven, I win. But then I want to stay and help you. So, come on. I would look, we would look and go, wait a minute, you going to sacrifice your seat for me? When you got a chance to go and you choose not to go? Some people call that foolish. And Paul said that to die is the gain. If I die and I get Christ, I win. But I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking about you. And I want to present you. Cindy, he says, I want to present you. I promise you, one hope, Christ. I promise you that Christ is coming for you. I promise you that. I can tell you that. And then he said that I might present you, as Paul saying to Christ, look in this church at Corinth. Look. But I got to make sure that you're ready. That you're ready. Don't worry about all of the, the shortcomings and everything like that, because we all got shortcomings. We all are imperfect. But he says with Christ, we're perfect. With Christ. So if he's going to present them, as he promised you a husband, and the husband is Christ. So I got to make sure that if you're the bride, I have to present you in the best light. But he's saying to them that no matter how hard I try, some of you are going to be deceived. Now, the book of Revelation said that even some of the wise is going to be deceived. Even some of the ones who claim to know Christ are going to be deceived. That's how powerful the enemy is. So if our work is to wait on the bride to come, the bridegroom, and we are the bride, then we got to work on being a bride. Oh, in analogy. We got to work on it. Paul saying he got to present them. He promises. See, Paul made a promise to the people. Christ. And he's the husband, so he's coming back for the church. So you see, if Christ is the bridegroom and he's coming back for his bride, which is the church, then the church must be ready when he comes. Now, you marriage, counseling and things. I tell the bride, look here, on your day, don't let nothing get in the way. If somebody in the family member pass out, they just pass out. Don't let that bother you. Keep focused, because things are not going to go right. There's going to be chaos. There's going to be this. There's going to be that. There's going to be everything to come up to ruin your day. So when Christ comes back, there are things that are going to happen to ruin the wedding day. So you must stay focused. If your family ain't coming with you, then no, they don't come. They don't come. Don't let that ruin the bride's day. The bridegroom's coming. But the enemy is going to try to bring up everything to make you look bad, to distract you from this big, glorious day, when the bridegroom comes for the bride.
Especially if someone stands up and objects.
Yeah. You know, somebody, objection and all of this. Look,
I've never seen it happen.
look, that usually happens before it get to that day. When I'm married, I tell them, if anybody object, call me tomorrow. We'll talk about it. But right now, this is going down right now.
Yeah.
You can call it what you like. But remember, the enemy knows the bridegroom is coming. He don't know, but he said, look, I don't know, and they don't know. But I can tell you what, I'm going to keep them confused. I'm going to keep so much trouble. I'm going to keep them get them so distracted, so that when the bridegroom does come, they'll miss. Because they're distracted. They're going to make some of them sleepy and some of them tired. All of that to get you distracted. So I would tell the bride, I used to tell the bride, on your day, I don't care what happens. Do not let that interfere. If somebody pass out, let them pass out. If the cake fall over, let it fall. Just don't let anything get in the way, because I guarantee you, when you start focusing on that, it'll ruin your day. So, the bride and the bridegroom. The church is the bride, Christ is the bridegroom. And I'm telling you now, do not let anything distract you, because you know the bridegroom is coming. You know it. They know it. But the enemy is going to try to bring things in. See, the enemy is going to make the cake fall over, so that now you said, then he's going to make somebody pass out, and then he's going to make the food not show up on time. And all of the things that can go into getting you distracted, that's what he's going to do. And you know what? He's doing a very good job of it.
Definitely.
Because some people are saying, well, he hasn't come back yet. Well, you're right.
The distraction right now is, politics and world
And all of this.
World peace and this and that, and economy, and it's taking our focus off of Jesus.
Right.
All that stuff's going to go on. Just keep your eye on the prize.
And remember, it's all going on around you. Remember, that's what happened to Peter. Peter didn't sink because the storm was on him. He sunk because he took his eyes off of Jesus. The storm was out here. So the storm is going around us. If we keep our eye on the prize, we'll make it. bridegroom is coming. And you know who the bridegroom is. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Clubhouse, congregation, everybody hear me. You know who the bridegroom is. And the bridegroom is coming. And so we all know Jesus is coming. So are we ready for Jesus when he comes? I hope that we get ready because we don't know when he's coming. Okay, book of Ephesians. Ephesians chapter 5. Ephesians chapter 5. And then verse 23. And now, let me tell you something here. This is one of the most contested scriptures in the Bible.
Yeah.
And sometimes they use this to try to get something said. He's using an analogy. He says, wives, submit yourself to your husband as you do to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. Now as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. We're talking here about not slavery, not submission into everything. It is that submit that he is the head. Well, as the bridegroom, as the church, we shall submit that Christ is the head of the church. Well, if Christ is the head of the church and we submit to Christ as the head of the church, then that is a loving relationship.